I'd like to welcome all Rotarians and guests in the room and on Zoom. Have anyone on Zoom? Yes, we do. I'm Steve Sperlinger, Club President for this and Rotary year. Into the next one. Came back here. Each month, Rotary highlights a theme of interest for all Rotary clubs throughout the world. The theme for November is Rotary Foundation Month. You should have all received an email this last week detailing incentives for making a donation to the Rotary Foundation. And your contributions are leveraged at various levels towards Paul Harris Fellow points. To cap off our Foundation Month campaign, Giving Tuesday will occur this year on December 2nd. And you can contribute at rotary.org/Giving Tuesday. As you know, President Francisco Arreza highlights the theme this year, Unite for Good. Colin Aldis will help us in this one-way test.
Rotarians, please join me for a test. If you're a guest, it's up front. Of all the things we think there, correct? And
fine. If you could remain standing, please remain standing.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So as far as the happy thoughts total, we're now at 395 as we continue our journey to House of Elders. Oh, John is great. So there were some extra contributions for lunch, which we can talk about in a minute.
yes.
There we go. This working?
No, I think it's off.
No, we're happy thoughts, happy bucks, Dave.
So it's not really a happy thought, but I'll take my dollar and use it to recognize all of the veterans in the room. If you could please stand and be acknowledged.
Right.
Over here. Yep.
I have a happy buck. I'm flying to Yuma, Arizona next week for my son-in-law's retirement from the Marine Corps after 26 years. So.
Awesome. Congratulations. This table, Randy?
Yeah, I had two presentations scheduled today, one here, one at 125 Live, and I'm happy that the one at 125 Live got canceled. 2 in 1 day is a lot.
A double here. Asha.
And so I'll put $2 in too, one for Randy, because he's just a good guy and gonna give the talk today. The other. Okay, I'll take that back. The other is for yesterday's excellent State of the Campus address by Chancellor Lori Carroll, and the progress that's being made with University of Minnesota's student body going from 1,000 to 1,500 and now planning for maybe up to 2,500 in the next few years. Thanks.
Jill Margaret bigger. So I move my way over. All right.
I haven't been given very much lately, so I thought I could make up a little bit.
I'm giving today our program really interesting. My wife and I had the pleasure of visiting that area of Normandy several years ago on a vacation. Stayed at a
chateau nearby and visited a cemetery, which is not very well known, but it's a cemetery near St. James where people who fell during the battles around St. Louis in that area are buried. It's separate from the one that's on the beach, but it's quite impressive. I guess I'm really looking forward to this program. Thank you.
Excellent. Make my way over. Okay.
Yes, got me. I saw him at that lunch. And I saw, I know, 220 Rotaries, not now, but here, I mean, a whole bunch of them. So I'm putting in for all those Rotary people that have been or there at that $20 in there for that. And number two, Al DeBoer's birthday was the other day. And he is the longest bee person in our club. So I'm putting in $2 for him.
Excellent. Congrats. Any more? Audrey?
I'm putting my happy buck in for, getting to see my kids next week in California.
Excellent. Okay. Anyone else? Oh, John?
We have 11 people.
11? Okay, we'll take 11.
Yeah, let's
You want a quick one?
I got a quick one, yeah, our daughter, I think her daughter's in there. Last Friday, our daughter got married in a ceremony in her basement, which was beautiful. We had a lovely time. So now we welcome Jeff Johnson to our family and his daughter Braylon.
Excellent. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Those are great happy thoughts. Audrey Betcher will give our reflection today.
In honor of Veterans Day, this is an excerpt from a Letters from an American by Heather Cox Richardson. In 1918, at the end of 4 years of World War I's devastation, leaders negotiated for the guns of Europe to fall silent once and for all on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. It was not technically the end of the war, which came with the Treaty of Versailles. Leaders signed that treaty on June 28, 1919, 5 years to the day after the assassination of Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand set off the conflict. But the armistice declared on November 11th held, and Armistice Day became popularly known as the day the Great War, which killed at least 40 million people, ended. In November 1919, President Woodrow Wilson commemorated Armistice Day, saying that Americans would reflect on the anniversary of the armistice with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service and with gratitude for the victory, both because of the thing from which it has freed us and because of the opportunity it has given America to show her sympathy with peace and justice in councils of the nations. But Wilson was disappointed that the soldiers' sacrifices had not changed the nation's approach to international affairs. The Senate, under leadership of Republican Henry Cabot Lodge of Washington, who had been determined to weaken Wilson as soon as the imperatives of the war had fallen away, refused to permit the United States to join the League of Nations, Wilson's brainchild, a forum for countries to work out their differences with diplomacy rather than resorting to bloodshed. In 1938, Congress made November 11th a legal holiday to be dedicated to world peace. But neither the war to end all wars nor the commemorations of it ended war. Just 3 years after Congress made Armistice Day a holiday for peace, American armed forces were fighting a second world war, even more devastating than the first. The carnage of World War II gave power to the idea of trying to stop wars by establishing a rules-based international order, rather than trying to push their own boundaries and interests whenever they could gain advantage. Countries agreed to abide by a series of rules that promoted peace, economic cooperation, and security. The new international system provided forums for countries to discuss their differences, like the United Nations, founded in 1945, and mechanisms for them to protect each other, like NATO, established in 1949, which has a mutual defense pact that says any attack on a NATO country will be considered attack on all of them. In 1954, to honor the armed forces of world wars after World War I, Congress amended the law creating Armistice Day by striking out the word armistice and putting in veterans in its place. President Dwight D. Eisenhower, himself a veteran who had served as the supreme commander of the Allied expeditionary forces in Europe, and who had become a five-star general of the Army before his political career, later issued a proclamation asking Americans to observe Veterans Day. Let us solemnly remember the sacrifices of all who fought so valiantly on the seas, in the air, and on foreign shores to preserve our heritage of freedom. And let us consecrate ourselves to the task of promoting and enduring peace so that their efforts shall not have been in vain.
Thank you so much for that moving testimony, Audrey. Brandon Stocker will help us with the introduction of guests.
We have two guests today. First one is Deb Christensen. You can stand up. This is all your food. Okay. Got to know Deb an awful lot this last year. She helps with all of our exchange students around town. Does an amazing job making sure they're safe, giving them their money, driving them back and forth. So I know Luke will really appreciate it. I'm sure Luke really does as well. So,
I enjoy being the club counselor.
so good. Thank you for joining us, Deb. And our second guest is Rebecca Snap. Can you stand up, please? Rebecca is from the Salvation Army of Rochester. What's your job there, Rebecca?
I do community engagement.
For community engagement.
Oh, it's like, it's a lot of everything.
Well, welcome to Rotary for today. Glad to have you.
Rebecca will be addressing us in just a couple minutes. So I want to congratulate all our members on who have November birthdays and anniversaries, as you could see in the pre-meeting slide. I will once again send around the sign-up sheet for our meeting. The next meeting is December 4th, the next program meeting. We do meet on the third Thursday next week as well, but it's not a program meeting. And then after that is Thanksgiving, so we will be meeting then. Remember, you automatically be signed up for the free lunch every other month if you sign up. No. Does anyone have any announcements today who hasn't already spoken? Do you want to remind people that the Chamber of Commerce has plenty of opportunities for you to participate, whether it's AM Espresso, Business After Hours, Women's Roundtable. Then they also always have a more of a major meeting to a summit of some type. This with its BDX, business development. And the next one. Professionals in Action is having a meeting, and it's going to be at Channel 1 next week. And they would like you to register if you're thinking about attending. It's a service meeting where they're going to be doing the stacking, filling of the boxes that Channel 1 always does. But please register if you plan to attend. It's 4 to 6 on next Thursday. Please register with Ellen, or you can email her too. She'll be happy to send the Channel 1 expects to just want to know the numbers. Deb, if you're available, Deb Christensen wants to make an announcement regarding the Rotary Risers raffle, which is their major fundraiser that they have each year. And I'll let you cover that.
Right here.
Sure. Yeah, to use the mic.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yes, I'm here in case any of you have not been hit up by any other riser member. And I know, they do a pretty good job, making the sales out there, but I have extra tickets here and I'd be happy to sell you one. It's like you said, it's our major fundraiser. We use it for my book day, which we have. I think there's about 500 first graders that get books. We took them to the Children's Museum last spring We help with cradle to career, so there's all kinds of things that we help with. So I'll stick around after the meeting and hopefully you can buy a ticket or two. Thanks.
What are the rises week for now?
Tuesday mornings, 7 o'clock at,
Anyway,
thank you, United Way.
Hold on, it's Tuesday morning at 7 o'clock at the United
And
Way.
it's easy park. I like it.
Thanks, Deb. Oh, can I just have a show of hands here? Who has purchased a ticket ever in the past years and won any amount? Okay,
3 times.
yeah, okay, big money too, I bet. All right, thanks, Deb. So, here to present to us today is, Rebecca Snap from Salvation Army, who, as she mentioned, is Director of Engagement, Community Engagement.
Yeah, I'll list the whole thing. I know it's one of those
Okay.
titles that kind of means everything. Do you want me to present from here? Is that
Sure.
easiest?
They can hear better.
Gotcha. Is
that all right? Can you all hear me okay?
Perfect. I'm gonna try really hard not to move from this spot. So hello, everyone. I'm happy to know many of you and see many familiar faces. My name is Rebecca Snapp, so I direct community engagement at the Salvation Army. It's a whole host of a whole bunch of different things, but the long and the short of it for this purpose is it means that I coordinate the Red Kettle campaign every year here in Olmsted County. If you can believe it, the kettles are actually going out today and bell ringing starts tomorrow at 9 a.m. So we are almost there. It's our biggest fundraising campaign of the entire year. We raise between a third and half of all of the income we need for the whole of the year, all of our programs and services in the 6 weeks before Christmas. And my running joke with people is it's a miracle I don't have high blood pressure. But one of the reasons that I really look forward to the opportunity to speak to all of you is because I know you've all been so generous with giving of your time to ring a bell every year. So there are a couple of things that I thought I would share with you that you might appreciate. Not just the start and end dates, but Mayo Clinic has announced when their match is going to be, which is a really great thing to know because as bell ringers, people will ask you that all the time, and I'm sure they do even earlier in the season. And this year they've announced they're going to match on December 13th and December 20th, so 2 Saturdays right before Christmas. So it's great to know those are the days that dollars will be doubled. But we bring in a lot more money than just the money brought in on those 2 Saturdays. And it's important for everyone to realize that, you know, the Salvation Army in Olmsted County has a budget of millions of dollars, and right around 1.1, 1.2 of those millions of dollars comes in the 6 weeks before Christmas, specifically because of the Red Kettle campaign. So it's a huge, huge, huge piece of our work to be able to help as many people as we do. And my big pitch to everyone this year is to really look at the kettles a little bit differently. Because how many of us see the red kettles and we kind of think of the bell ringing experience? You think about ringing a bell, people give, you wish them Merry Christmas, and they go on their way. It's a very lovely transaction, but very few people actually get to experience all the work that money actually goes to. We don't have everybody who rings a bell come down to our campus and actually see the work in action. And so I'm hoping that I can encourage all of you to think about the 4,500 people who are receiving healthcare from our clinic when you look at the red kettles. Or think about the 32 people who are housed at our Castle View apartments when you see the red kettles. Or think about the 6 to 10 families in our transitional housing program who had been homeless who aren't anymore because of the red kettles. And we're really encouraging people to see those things when they see dollars go into those buckets, because that's what's happening because people give to those and because people take the time to ring a bell. So registertoring.com, it's open, it's ready to go. But we still have thousands of open volunteer shifts. It takes about 3,000 people to make this campaign happen every year. It's a really big effort on behalf of this community. We're really appreciative of all that you guys do to make it happen. And here we go. Bring it on. Now, can I answer any questions for all of you while I'm here? Yes.
Have you added Venmo and all these other ways? Because my kids do not carry cash anymore. What are you doing to help address that?
It's almost like I planted you there. You're perfect. Yes, all of the above. So actually at the red kettles, what you'll see, you know how there's those top signs, those big signs right on top of the red kettle stand? Now, obviously ours look a little bit different than that, but on that top sign, what you'll see this year is a whole little line that says Venmo, Apple Pay, Google Pay. There's a QR code to make a gift. And at several locations around Rochester, you're also going to see what are called tip tap machines, where you have 3 little dollar amounts that people can tap their credit card and walk away. It's as quick, as easy, and as anonymous as giving a cash gift. We're not accepting or collecting any credit card information, any personal information. The only information we get from those tip tap students is the last four of people's cards, so we can distinguish which gift is which, just in case someone accidentally tapped twice or something like that. So there's a whole bunch of different ways people who don't carry cash to still participate and to give to the Red Kettles this year. And it's all gonna be right there visible on the Red Kettle stand. All you gotta do is point to it when somebody asks.
Thank you.
Yes,
How many different locations you have?
21. And so what's nice about how we've done it this year, well, actually how we've done it for the last several years, is we want to make the kettles really accessible, right? So there's a kettle in every single city in Olmsted County. So there's, I think about this. There's 18 of them in Rochester, one in Byron, one in Stewartville, one in Chatfield. But in Rochester, they're on, there's one downtown, they're all over kind of different segments of Rochester. So there's indoor and outdoor locations convenient to everybody, but 21 in total all across Olmsted County. And that's not even counting the counter kettles, those little baby ones that you see everywhere. Trying to put those out as an adventure because there's so many that just kind of get peppered all over the city. But that's another way for people to give too, is at their local restaurant, or if they pop into a business, they see one of those, all that kettle money still gets contributed to our overall kettle totals. They're a part of that same process. Awesome. I see nods. I see familiar faces. John, this is for you. I want to make sure you hear me say this. So one of the things that I know has come up in your conversations is ringing to make sure you are able to actually ring a bell in the location where you guys ring. The indoor locations, we don't have an individual contract with any individual locations, but several individual spots have asked us to have quieter bells, just so their employees don't have to listen to the really loud dingers inside all the time. But we also recognize that that's really important to everyone, is making sure that the bell is heard. We will have bells out. They will be hopefully quiet enough for the indoor locations. If you bring your own bells, believe me, that's awesome. But every single location you're going to be at is going to have bells there waiting for you, and all of them have a dinger in them to make sure that people hear the bells when you walk by the kettles. I know that's important to everyone. So I want to make sure that's clear, that bells will be with dingers, and then will be at every single kettle location, regardless of whether it's a high beat. So wherever you guys go to ring, know that you'll be able to ring a bell, and people will hear you coming. People will be able to get to the kettle. Awesome. I'll give this back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark. Good to see you.
That's great to have her here to kind of step in and help us out with our campaign. So we start on the 15th and we're doing really well. I'm really surprised at as many locations and time slots have been filled up. We are still missing a few though. So we have from 9 to 11, 11 to 1, and 1 to 3. We have individuals, but it'd be great to have a second person to ring at those spots. And that's at Hy-Vee Barlow indoors. Sam's Club, the following weekend, we have a lot of open spots there as well. So if you get started, look online and see if you can make any of those locations. One thing that she didn't mention, which I know I've said before, and they've told me too, that an unattended kettle is zero, is an empty kettle. You think, you go there and you see nobody sitting there ringing bells. Well, you sit there and watch and see how many people put $1 or 15 cents or anything in those kettles, and they don't. If somebody is sitting there, standing there ringing bells, they'll drop money in, which is great. Now, Rebecca.
Yes.
Is there an app for your phone that you can sit there and ring bells?
You know what's funny? The reason I know that is because I had a volunteer accidentally pick up the bells from a kettle location one night. And my ringers called me the next morning to say, we don't have bells there. By the time I got there with bells, they had found the app on their phone and they were shaking their phones to ring a bell while they were there.
There we go. So there's an app on the phone. We can put a Bluetooth speaker in your pocket, turn it up, and you can ring it that way. So thank you, everybody who has signed up already. I'm looking forward to a great season. We do have some outside locations that we need to bundle up. It's a couple of indoor ones, but let's make it a great season for the Salvation Army. Thank you.
We want to just remind people and put in a save the date for December 18th, which is our Christmas party. It is on a Thursday. It will be a nighttime party. It will be here at the VFW. That's in the evening. We don't have all the details quite worked out yet. That we will have probably 5:30 to 6:30 social hour, 6:30 dinner. There will be a cash bar. We are trying for entertainment. We don't have that quite lined up yet, so I can't comment on that. But please, please attend, and Deb, if you could convey our invitation to the risers as well, and we'll be contacting Greater Rochester Rotary as well for an invitation. So today, I'm proud to introduce our speaker, Randy Stocker. And most of you know Randy from his member spotlight that he gave a couple weeks ago. And in addition to what he mentioned there, he's an executive director for Rochester Fest. He is a professional, exceptional speaker on grief and resilience. He is author of his book, Hugs Help, which actually, the very first time I heard Randy, he wasn't even in Rotary yet, but he was giving a presentation at our church. And so I remember that very well when we first got into town. He serves on our Rotary board as membership chair, serves on the steering committee for our new bike ride fundraiser. He has hosted our youth exchange student this last year. And he never hesitates to step forward to volunteer for any of our duties, such as introducing guests that make our meetings run more smoothly. Please join me in welcoming Stocker.
Mark, the introduction, and Ashok only thinks I'm worth $1. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate that. Thanks to everybody coming out today. My wife and I always had a dream of going to Europe. Talked about multiple times. Well, finally, we decided we get too old. We need to go now. So in August this year, we took an 11-day trip to Europe. We flew from Minneapolis, took the midnight flight to London, spent 4 days in London, took the speedy train across from London to Paris, 185 miles an hour, hopped on a ship called the WWII, spent 7 days on a cruise ship over there. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our experiences and some of the fun we had. But first of all, we used a Viking to schedule our trip for us, okay? In the past, I probably would have done it myself, not done near as good. But Viking was a first-class operation from step one all the way to coming home. And people waiting for us at the airport. After our 11-day cruise, they took us back to the airport. They waited in line with us while we checked our bags, and they walked us to our gate. So from as soon as we got there till we got back, we were with the Viking personnel. First class all the way if you haven't done that. We arrived in London. This is our hotel right here. Downtown London. We ever walk, and Mike checked out a few pub bars down there. So we got in at about 5 o'clock. We had a meeting. Sure, I were a little exhausted after the overnight flight. So we went to bed at 6 o'clock, knowing that breakfast was at 7 o'clock the next morning. We forgot to change our watches, our clocks. So we woke up at midnight, got dressed, showered, went downstairs and said, "Where's breakfast at?" They were still sweeping out the restaurant. And I saw these pretty girls and guys still dressed in their suits and ties walking around. So I was really confused. I went to the desk and they said, "Sir, it's only 1 o'clock in the morning." We didn't do very well with our first day there. After that, it got better. So we stayed in London. We went to, here's some pictures. Got a lot of pictures of what we did. But we had several tours around London, different museums, different areas. We watched the changing of the guard, Buckingham Palace, which is okay. It's amazing the number of people there every day to watch that. We were about 5 rows behind other people, so we had to raise our cameras up in the air to see what, and then look at our pictures on our phone. So the pomp and circumstances was nice with the music and the horses and stuff, but it really wasn't us to see. Go back one here. There's a couple of pictures of the Eiffel Tower. The one in the middle is from our ship. So we were docked about 4 blocks away from the Eiffel Tower. And every night at 10 o'clock, they have light on Eiffel Tower. It is absolutely gorgeous. Flashing lights, so. So the architecture overseas is amazing. It's old, it's amazing, it's beautiful, there's history to everything, so we saw an awful lot of churches and cathedrals, and everywhere you go, it's just something with a story behind it because of the age of everything down there. Part of our trip was we had tour guides, so everywhere we went, every day we had 8 different tours during our 11 days. The professional tour guide would go into all the nitty-gritty details about what happened here and what happened here, so it's just very, very educational. Thanks, next one. Yeah, so our second day there, we went to the Golden Lion Pub. It's about a 45-minute drive from London, and it was a place where Prime Minister Churchill and Douglas MacArthur, met to do some of the planning for WW2. So you can see the bottom picture down here. I'm sorry, not MacArthur, but Eisenhower. Down this is where they used to sit in this pub to plan the attack that would take back France from the Nazis. It's pretty amazing. The bartender there had all kinds of great stories. Pictures were historic. Outside, they had actors dressed up as veterans. You see a picture coming up here of my wife with the guy that she met out there, dressed up. They would talk about their weapons, talk about their equipment. Just really amazing stories about what happened back then. Second day, we went to Churchill's war room. And I didn't know this, but Churchill had a special spot where they had a planning committee, and they would meet every single day there at this war room. It was underground at a museum. They kept the war room the way it was way back then with 12 chairs around it. And it's just so historic. You actually walk in and walk around the room where they planned WW2. After doing that, there was a museum there, Churchill Museum. It had just amazing artifacts and histories and guns and brochures and awards and all that kind of stuff from Europe. So this is the war room here on the right. Pretty amazing entrance, we thought. But once you got down there, it was just amazing. They were in this war room while the bombs were dropping on London. And they put an extra 5 foot of concrete in there to protect the people. So they were down, pretty low down. They could still hear the bombs while they're doing their planning, so. This is the Churchill's desk. He slept there all the time. And his bed. So he very seldom left the planning area there all the time. He kept his people with him there all the time. Part of the planning team was Prime Minister Churchill and the Minister of Defense, Neville Chamberlain, who is the former Prime Minister before Churchill. He was part of the planning team for WW2. Lord Halifax, we probably heard that name before. He was the Secretary of War. They also had a politician there from the Labour Party. Everything's politics there, like everything is politics here. So they had to keep the Labour Party involved there. And Lord Beaverbrook, who was the Minister of Aircraft Production, played a big role in bombs and the parachute just jumping out. So yeah, we really enjoyed the war room. So next slide. It's one of the things from the war room. How would you like it if you were joining the military? And the general stood up and said, gentlemen, your life expectancy from the day you join your battalion will be precisely 30 days, not 3 days. And they told that to all the soldiers there. And he said, this is what's going to happen. They knew how bloody and how terrible it was going to be. Next slide. One of our tours was to Bletchley Park, where the WW2 code breakers helped break all the codes for the Germans, so we knew what was going on. And this is also part of the development of modern computing, started way back then when they were breaking the codes. So just a big building, walk around. It's pretty historic to see the rooms where they did code breaking, the amount of people there, but part of it. Next, we spent a day at Monet's museum. Okay. And if you like flowers and plants and pretty things, it was absolutely amazing. The water lilies and the pond built there, just so beautiful to see. So we toured that, walked around that. It was actually a bike trip for my wife. For those of you bikers, she was able to get a bike on the ship we were on, right up to Monet's museum, which she really enjoyed. A little good exercise for her. So Monet was known as the father of Impressionism. He was able to capture the perception of light and color through quick brushstrokes and a focus on nature. You can see that in some of his pictures. So some of the more famous ones were the haystacks and the water lilies. And in his museum, he had replicas of all of his pictures. There were no originals, it was just the replicas. Originals were stored away someplace else. So being a non-artist person, it's hard to tell a replica from an original, so they look pretty nice to me. Once again, the place was packed. Okay, we're talking, what, 90 years later, and the history is still amazing. The appreciation for what the Americans did is very, very abundant. There's US flags around. I'm going to show you a picture of a Abraham Lincoln statue. In Paris, they built a Statue of Liberty, like the one they gave to us in America. It's actually facing our Statue of Liberty in America. So we get on this ship, we start going a little bit, and we look out, and there's the Statue of Liberty right behind us. Okay. This might be one of my favorite parts. I didn't understand the history of WWII. Never really studied it much, but it wasn't easy for the Allies to get to France where the Germans were at. So they built prefabricated ports. They hid them under the water, and when it came time to attack, they raised these ports up. And it was a supply line for the tanks and the cars and the food and the weapons to get in, and a supply line for the wounded soldiers to get out. They were all constructed in Britain, were towed across the English Channel, and they were sailed off the coast of Normandy. And there's still some examples there. You can see what it looks like here, but build them floatable. So all that was hidden. When the attack time came, they put the floats on that had come up, and they were able to use that to basically beat the Germans. So if you don't have a resupply line when you're getting bombed and shot by thousands and thousands of people, you're not going to make it. So it's just part of the planning process. And it took a couple of years for them to put all this together. That was fun to see. They use these to unload troops, vehicles, and supplies. The system is comprised of breakwaters, piers, and roadways. So that's what they use to put these things together. Pretty high tech way back then. It was all manually done too. Next slide. Go back one more. Oh, there we go. No, one more. Great. Okay, good. Yeah. So there's it's called Operation Overload, and they were coming there, and there were these ports built. There's two different areas that are built for Mulberry A, which is for the American Forces Omaha Beach, and they had a second group built for Mulberry B, which is for the British and the Canadian forces. at a place called Aromachis. Next. This was amazing. Walk there, you just sort of lost your breath by seeing the 9,673 soldiers buried at this American cemetery. It's just hundreds and hundreds of rows of people, all with the same thing. Walk up, you can see their name, where they were born at, and then their date of death on them. We walked around for a couple hours. We took some pictures of some people from Minnesota. But you could spend a whole day just walking up and down, seeing all the cemeteries. So feelings, deeply emotional. It was, because most of these were kids. A lot of them is 16 years and younger. Appreciation, give you the appreciation of all those thousands and thousands of people that fought and died for us. Young people, probably didn't know what they were fighting for. But they were out there, giving their lives away. There's a very sacred area as well. And this beautiful, yeah, go one more. Yeah. This beautiful water area here. Okay. They had a little planetarium in there for people to go in and see more names on there. Our cruise ship actually did a ceremony for us. We had 3 veterans on our cruise ship. So we did our own little ceremony. We had the veterans carry up a wreath that we bought as a group. And then we had taps played and we had a little ceremony. So it's just a very neat private thing that our tour group put on for us. Some of the quotes I heard. Why do people do it? It's fear and chaos. It was hell on earth. The noise, the smoke, the screams, you'll never forget it. Why they do it? Courage and brotherhood. Despite the fear, they had created unbreakable bounds and acts of heroism among comrades. And there's a lot to survivor's guilt. We heard those stories an awful lot, especially the veterans that we were with there that day. So when entering the ceremony, it's like a move to silence. You just walk in, you're just overwhelmed by the size, by the number of tombstones, by the people, by the silence. Just overwhelming here. It makes you proud to be an American. But I asked people, the question I asked was why during the war, our American government gave the people the choice of bringing the bodies of the deceased back to America or burying them there on the grounds where they died, or close to the grounds they were died. And quite a choice, quite a decision to make for people. So 60% chose to bring their loved ones home. 40% decided to let them rest in the soil here right by Normandy Beach. And 40% is at 9,362 of our young men buried there. People asked why would they leave their children in Normandy? That was a fair question. They honor and respect. They felt their sons should be buried with their comrades in the land they helped liberate. Number 2 reason is permanence. Our U.S. government promised to keep that cemetery alive and beautiful and going forever and ever. We made that promise to these 9,300 kids' families. 3rd area was symbolism. Normandy American Cemetery still stands as a living memorial to Americans for their sacrifice and freedom in Europe. And it was packed, guys, like I say, 90 years after the war, it was still packed. There were busloads and busloads of people going there. After we left the cemetery, we actually went down to Omaha Beach. Another way to be silent, just to look out upon that place and see how big it is. And then close your eyes and imagine all these troops and young kids coming across and planes and boats and ships and walking and that kind of stuff. And dying right on that beach. Just hard to imagine. One of my favorite gifts I bought, expect they're on my table there, but I brought some sand back from Omaha Beach. You sell these little souvenir things, but it's nice. You go out, you go down to the beach and put your own sand in it. So it is a very meaningful, you can pass that around if you want to. Very meaningful souvenir that I bought that will always remind me of what others gave so we can have what we have in this country. So D-Day landing, there were 6 landing spots. Americans land on Utah, Omaha, and Point Du Hoc. That's where the 9,300 Americans were killed. It's about a 55-mile long coastline, Normandy coastline. So that's what we were trying to take back. So there were troops from America, of course, from Britain, from France, from Canada. Over 160,000 Allied troops landed that day at Normandy. 160,000. But it worked, and you all know that. It loosened Hitler's grip on Europe. Okay. And Europe was going down if this hadn't happened. I mean, it was pretty obvious there wasn't a lot left there. So. Very, very humble, very interesting. So, next slide. This is Omaha Beach. See, that was the 50-mile, 5-mile radius there. Some of them started out by landing on parachutes over there. The rest came across on the beach. And it wasn't just Americans who died. There were British infantry, about 4,200 British soldiers died. Over 2,000 Canadian soldiers passed away that day. And over 21,000 German soldiers died that day. Next slide. End of our trip, we went and saw Napoleon's home, which is pretty interesting. It's yeah, one more picture there. Yeah, there it is. Pretty amazing. He loved himself. It's pretty obvious by all the hundreds and hundreds of pictures of himself in there. But he loved his wife, Josephine, even more. Okay. She wasn't a very good wife, but they were together a long time. So she sort of did anything she wanted to do, spend any type of money she wanted to spend, and he just said yes, like most of us guys do. Anyway, it was an amazing trip. Quality all the way. If you haven't done a river cruise, there's about 180 people on the cruise, and by the end of the 7 days, we had 180 new friends from all over the country. 178 were from the United States, 2 were from Europe. But just a great way to relax. No kids on those ships, so it was very peaceful. Not a lot of amenities, but just a lot of peace and quiet. Every night they provided music and dancing and games and that kind of stuff. It's very fun. So yeah, we're glad we went. It was expensive, but you got to spend it, right? So, good. Any questions? So I didn't know when I was taking this trip I was going to do a presentation. So.
You mentioned that soldiers didn't come back. So right around 4,000 are still there.
Yes, that's 93. He said that about 40% of the soldiers didn't come back. And that's 60% chose to bring the soldiers back to America. 40% of families decided to leave their soldiers buried there with their buddies and where they died and the area and the land they saved. And that was that 9362 number, and there are other cemeteries around there as well. That was just all Americans, that one cemetery. Other questions? Yeah.
So what's left on the beach? Are any of the, like, the German? I know there were lots of guns up on that hill. Is much of that left, or how is that preserved?
The town been totally rebuilt. We can still, a few buildings remaining, you can still see the bullet holes and that kind of stuff. A lot of the bridges they built are up on the land, so you can see some of the stuff they built. A lot of the things soldiers stood behind fire ants are there. There's hills right up near there, and the Germans were mostly up in the hills firing down on these people. You know, we saw a lot of old castles and old forts there that not a lot left of them. Good question. Anything else? Thank you for your time.
We'd like to thank our speaker, Randy Stocker, for his wonderful presentation. And thanks for your presentation today. A donation will be made in your to the Legacy Project. Before we thank the volunteers for today's program, I would like to offer a special thanks to Frank Allen for what he does behind the scenes to keep our accounts up to date and accurate, and as well as helping with that teacher. So thank you, Frank. Thanks to all of you for participating today and our volunteers for today's program. John Woodruff, Sergeant at Arms, Ellie Good, meal facilitator, where we test Colin Aldis, Reflection, Audrey Betcher, greeter, Chris Colby, Happy Bucks, Frank, and introducing our guests, Randy, and then Joseph for tech support. Well, actually, it's Mark today. He's taking over from Joseph for a couple weeks here as Joseph takes a much well-deserved vacation to visit his son who completed his master's program in Prague. So I'll be back just in time for the Christmas party. Remember, that's December 18th. So we'd like to remind all Rotarians to go forth into the world and unite for good. We are good.
In the program.
Yeah, I didn't know.